Grandma's shocking revelation at my son's baptism leaves the whole family in tears. The sun splashed golden rays around the quaint church, filling it with the warmth of a perfect afternoon. Daniel stood at the altar, his heart a mix of joy and anxiety. The love gathered in that small, wooden space was palpable. Friends and family filled the pews, eyes shining with anticipation to welcome his infant son into the fold of faith. The moment was monumental, a celebration linked to generations past, filled with laughter and soft whispers. Yet a strange sensation tickled at the back of Daniel's mind, like a distant storm brewing beyond sight. As the congregation bowed their heads for the prayer, a blanket of bliss descended, only to be punctured by a sudden shift. Grandma Eleanor, the family matriarch and a figure of comfort, stood up. Her frail hands trembled, and the hush that followed felt like a premonition. What could she possibly want to say? In the stillness, every eye turned her way, and Daniel's chest tightened. His heart raced. Was something wrong? The air thickened, heavy with unsaid words, as Grandma cleared her throat, her voice quavering but resolute. I need to tell you all something. About Daniel's father. Gasps echoed like sharp crystals shattering in that sacred space. Daniel's mother's hand flew to her mouth, her expression morphing into a mix of shock and dread. None of them had seen this coming. What could Eleanor possibly reveal that would unearth buried memories? I've kept the secret for too long, she continued, her voice stronger now. His father? He wasn't who you think he was. The words rolled out, wrapping around the stunned crowd like a shroud. Eyes widened, breaths caught. Daniel felt the ground beneath him tremble as the truth cracked open like an ancient vault. Eleanor's eyes filled with a sheen of tears as she shared a scandal that rocked their family decades ago. The revelation broke through the careful facade they had all worn, peeling back the layers of love, loyalty, and trust that had protected their fragile unity. Whispers replaced the prayer as shock rippled through the guests. Some clutched their partners, while others exchanged astonished glances. Daniel's heart thumped loudly against his ribcage, and his mind raced with questions. Who was his father, really? The image he had painted of a worn, caring man shattered into pieces. Emotions erupted. His mother's face twisted in agony and anger. She shot a glance at Eleanor, eyes blazing with betrayal. The sacred baptism now morphed into a battleground, with love and grief tangled in a raw, explosive mixture. While the congregation's collective gasp still hung in the air, Daniel's soul warred within him. Loyalty to his mother clashed with the love he had always held for his grandmother. How could he navigate this treacherous terrain? As the shadows lengthened, he felt the weight of every stare upon him. Every. Whisper a reminder of the gaping rift that now hung between loved ones. The baptism had been meant to bond them, to celebrate life and faith. Now it threatened to unravel everything. Standing there, poised between the past and an uncertain future, Daniel's thoughts raced. How would they survive this tempest? Was there a path to forgiveness, or was this merely the beginning of a rift too wide to bridge? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The silence was deafening. Daniel stood frozen, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in his ears. His grandmother's words hung in the air like an unsettling fog, twisting the joy of the moment into something dark and heavy. Faces around him were painted with shock, confusion rippling through the congregation like a pebble thrown into a still pond. His mother's face had turned pale, lips pursed taut as if holding back a flood of emotion. She looked at Daniel with wide eyes, a cocktail of betrayal and pain swirling behind them. He felt her anguish like a physical weight pressing down on him. What more could Eleanor possibly reveal? Then, just as the congregation's whispers crescendoed, a loud crash interrupted the tumult. The heavy wooden doors of the church burst open, slamming against the stone wall. A man stood there, panting, hair wildly disheveled, eyes scanning the room until they locked onto Daniel. It was Daniel's older brother, Jacob, a shadow from a past they thought long buried. "What's going on?" Jacob's voice trembled, full of urgency and confusion. No one had seen him for years. Daniel's mind whirred, piecing together memories of a brother whose departure had left a chasm in their family. What was he doing here? "Jacob!" Daniel's mother gasped, her emotions now fragile glass ready to shatter. "You shouldn't. I had to come. You need to know the truth, all of it." Jacob's voice cracked, slicing through the sudden tension. He stepped forward, wiping sweat from his brow, his eyes darting from Eleanor to their mother, as if caught in a storm between two worlds. The congregation shifted, murmurs igniting as curiosity and trepidation took hold. Was there more? Did Jacob know something that could change the narrative yet again? "Daniel, you don't know the half of it," Jacob continued, his voice steady now. "What Grandma's saying about Dad, it's not the whole picture. There's something darker, something that's haunted us all." He glanced at the pews, taking in the stunned audience. A gasp escaped the lips of a distant relative who had always been quick to judge. "What do you mean?" Daniel stepped closer, heart racing, a lump forming in his throat. "What do you know?" "I'll tell you." Jacob paused, the air thick with the possibility of devastation. "But first, you have to understand why I left, why I could never come back." His eyes glistened with unshed tears, the anguish radiating off him like heat from a flame. A sudden earthquake of emotion crashed through the sacred space. "I found out things. Daniel, things the family has kept hidden. Dad, he wasn't just unfaithful. He had a second family, a second life." The words landed like rocks, each one heavier than the last. Everything Daniel had believed about his father crumbled into dust. Echoes of laughter from his earlier memories twisted into screams of betrayal, and he felt as if he were drowning in a sea of unknowing. Gasps rippled again, confusion and disbelief washing over the congregation. Daniel's heart pounded like a war drum, each thump a reminder of the reality unraveling before him. "No, no, this can't be true! You're lying!" he yelled, desperation clawing at his chest. "Ask Grandma," Jacob said softly, pain etched in every line of his face. "Ask her about that summer. The summer everything changed, We can't hide anymore. We need to uncover this mess or we'll all drown in it. As his words hung in the air, a paralyzing silence engulfed the church, leaving everyone breathless. Daniel stood torn between the storm raging inside him and the quiet despair settling around him. What did this mean for his family? Could they survive this? In that moment, the baptism, the symbol of life and faith, felt like a fragile vessel. One more wave away from capsizing entirely. The enigmatic world they thought they understood teetered on the brink of chaos. And now, standing at the edge of revelation, Daniel faced an unsettling truth. Everyone had secrets, and the real battle had just begun. Daniel's heart raced as Jacob's words hung in the air. The revelation of a second family twisted inside him like a knife. He couldn't breathe. The baptism, the celebration, everything shattered into chaos. Whispers floated like ghosts among the congregation, and his mother's face twisted with turmoil. Emotion poured off her like a tidal wave, raw and furious. "Don't listen to him," she cried, her voice breaking, as if trying to shield Daniel from a storm. But the truth was out there, stark and undeniable. He felt caught in a whirlpool, dragged deeper into secrets he never knew existed. Jacob stepped closer, desperation etched on his face. "You have to understand, Dan. It was never just Dad's infidelity. It was worse. There were connections, ties to people you never even knew. They could still be around." Panic flashed in his eyes, an echo of long-buried fear surfacing. The church's air thickened, heavy with disbelief and murmurs. Daniel's world felt impossibly small. "What do you mean? Who are these people?" The questions tumbled out, each one like a stone clattering to the ground. He demanded answers, was desperate for clarity, but suddenly, the heavy doors slammed open again, this time with a force that rattled the stained glass. A woman burst through the entrance, wild-eyed and breathing hard. Her presence cut through the tension, drawing every eye. "Daniel!" she shouted, her voice shaking with urgency. "I don't have much time." His pulse quickened. He couldn't place her. Was she a friend? Family? "Who are you?" he managed, confusion clouding his mind. "I'm Lily," she said, stepping forward, eyes darting around the room. "I know what your father did. I can explain everything." The murmurs morphed into a crescendo of shock. Daniel felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. Was this another secret? "What do you know?" His voice was steady, though inside he felt like he was unraveling. "Jacob is right. Your father had a second family. I was part of it," she said. Each word a hammer, striking a nail into a fragile coffin. Gasps broke out, eyes widening, including Grandma Eleanor's, who seemed to wither under the weight of this new truth. Daniel could barely process it. "What do you mean? You were part of it?" The air around him buzzed with disbelief as silence fell again like a heavy curtain. "Yes, I was with him for years. He had children, my kids. They're your half-siblings." Stunned silence. Daniel felt the room curve inward. He thought of his father, the man he idolized. Layers of love now felt like chains, binding him to a lie. How can you possibly know this?" "I found out when the affair began. He promised me the world, but it was all the web of lies," she said, tears pooling in her eyes. "But he had more than just you and Jacob. The other family is here, Daniel. They're still in town. The congregation gasped collectively. Shockwaves rippled among them. Daniel felt dizzy, the room tilting. "No!" he shouted. "How could he? Who are they?" Lily met his gaze. Sorrow etched across her features. "I can't tell you everything here. They're scared. They don't even know who you are. But if we don't confront this together, it'll destroy you." "Destroy us?" His voice cracked, betrayal clawing at his throat. "You've already done that, telling me this now, at my son's baptism." But a voice cut in from the back. "We're getting nowhere." It was Jacob, a fire igniting in his eyes. "Either we face this together, or we'll always be living a lie." The tension snapped, the air sparking with anger and confusion. Daniel felt like a marionette caught in tangled strings, pulled this way and that by family faces full of disbelief. But then somewhere in that chaotic moment, a familiar feeling began to creep in, a flicker of hope, smoldering beneath the pain like a tiny ember. "Where are they?" Daniel asked, his voice a whisper. "Where are my siblings?" Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside. The heavy wood doors swung wide again, revealing a young girl standing there, wind-tossed hair and wide eyes full of fear. But what gripped Daniel was her face, so hauntingly familiar. "Dad," she said, her voice trembling, "is that you?" And with those 4 words, everything Daniel thought he knew came crashing down again. Now there stood the potential for answers, but also for more shattered illusions. The room spiraled, and nothing felt stable anymore. Life as he had known it was hanging by a thread. What would this new truth unravel? "Dad?" the girl repeated, her voice thin with disbelief. Daniel's heart raced. She looked so familiar. Was it just the shock, twisting his perception? Or did she really have his father's eyes? "Who are you?" he managed, breath catching in his throat. The room buzzed, the congregation muttering, exchanging uncertain glances. I'm Isabella, your sister." The words hung like a jagged shard of glass, slicing through the thick tension. Daniel's mind spun, reality twisting into something unrecognizable. His breath quickened, and a knot formed tight in his chest. No, this can't be. Daniel felt as if the ground beneath him was crumbling. "What do you mean? How can you be my sister?" "I was born the summer everything changed. Mom, she didn't know. Dad told me I was special. He had another family, and I was the secret." Isabella's voice trembled, each word laced with pain and regret. Daniel's reality shattered. Jacob's dark words echoed in his thoughts. His father's betrayal, now a raging torrent, sweeping everything away. "So you're from the other family?" Daniel felt his entire world swirling, the very essence of his identity teetering on an abyss. "Yes." Isabella took a step forward, desperation mapping her features. "When he died, I had to know. I've been looking for you, for the truth. But I was scared. I thought I'd lose you." The whispers grew wild in the congregation. "This is madness," a cousin exclaimed. "2 families? No way." Disbelief ricocheted through the crowd, an electric charge igniting tempers and confusion. "Stop!" Daniel shouted, silence cutting through the chaos. His voice cracked with an anguish he could no longer contain. None of you understand." His mother's face was pale, eyes glistening with tears as she regarded Isabella like a wounded animal. "Daniel, we can't just..." Grasping for words like they were leaves slipping through. Her fingers, His world, stitched together with love and trust, turned into a grotesque puzzle. "Why now? Why here?" Daniel demanded, turning back to Isabella. "Why not sooner?" The rush of hurt clawed at him, but beneath it swirled something darker, a glimmer of anger. "You're not supposed to be here. You wrecked everything." "I didn't mean to!" Her voice cracked like thunder, her eyes wide and pleading. "I came because I needed you to know. Your father, he wasn't just living two lives. There was danger. He was hiding from people who could harm us." Daniel took a step back, all the air vanishing from his lungs. "What are you talking about?" he gasped, trying to piece this together. "Danger? What? Danger?" Before Isabella could answer, the doors burst open again, this time with an unexpected figure. A man strode in, tall and imposing, scanning the church like he owned a place. His dark eyes were sharp, glinting with an intensity that frozen time for Daniel. "Too late," he said, voice low and menacing. "You've opened a door that should have stayed shut." Gasps erupted from the crowd, shock morphing into fear. "Who are you?" Jacob shouted, stepping protectively in front of Daniel and Isabella. "No one you want to know," the man replied, smirking slightly. "But Daniel, you should listen to your sister. There's a legacy to protect." "What do you mean?" Daniel's voice trembled, panic bubbling beneath the surface. The room thickened with dread as all eyes turned to the newcomer, a shadow of dread looming over them. "You don't even know the truth about your father's death," the man continued, each word slicing like a knife, "or what he left behind." "What are you talking about?" Daniel felt his heart race, a wild beat in his chest. "Why don't you just tell me?" But the man merely chuckled, a low sound that echoed against the church walls. "If you want answers, you'll have to dig deeper. The truth is buried in a dark past, and trust me, it's messier than you could ever imagine." Panic surged through the room, leaving everyone gripping onto something solid. The air felt electric, heavy with uncertainty. Daniel's world was unraveling, threads of love and trust snapping beneath the weight of secrets. As everyone's eyes darted between each other and the new man, doubt crept into Daniel's mind. How could he trust anyone now? His family was full of shadows, and they were all intertwined in a web of lies. "Where do we go from here?" Daniel whispered, looking around desperately for someone to ground him. The moment stretched, leaving him teetering on a precipice, dangling over a chasm filled with uncertainty. In the silence that followed, Daniel realized he had no answers, only more questions, and somehow the unknown felt far more terrifying than the truth itself. Daniel's heart thudded like a hammer. In his chest, he felt the blood drain from his face as Isabella's words sank in. She was his sister, his half-sister. Around him, the congregation buzzed with disbelief, a wave of shock washing over everyone. But before he could process this new revelation, the man at the church doors spoke again, his tone dark and foreboding. "Do you want to know the truth about your father's legacy?" he said, his voice cold. "Or will you let these secrets devour you like a plague?" Daniel's jaw tightened, rage pulsing through him. "What do you know?" he demanded, eyes narrowed. "Why do you keep coming here, spilling lies?" The man stepped forward, his demeanor unsettling, like a wolf closing in on a wounded lamb. "Because you're in danger. Your family, it's not just a mess of secrets, it's a battlefield." Before Daniel could respond, a sudden scream pierced the air, sharp and shattering. Everyone whipped around, eyes widening in horror. A woman, a stranger, had burst through the door, her face twisted with panic. "Help! Please, you have to help me!" she cried, clutching her side, blood trickling from a wound. "They're coming! They're—" Her voice cut out into a choked sob, crumpling under the weight of fear. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted. People leaped to their feet, confusion exploding. "Call an ambulance!" someone shouted. "Get help!" Daniel's instincts kicked in. He rushed toward the woman, his heart racing with genuine concern. "What happened?" he asked, kneeling beside her, the room spinning around him. This wasn't what he needed. More chaos, more confusion. She gasped, breaths shallow. I saw him. They were going to kill me because of what I know." She looked into Daniel's eyes, a frantic plea. "You need to listen to me. Your father, he was involved in something big, dangerous." The congregation stood frozen, whispers morphing into panic. The man, this looming figure who claimed to know the truth, watched quietly. A faint smirk creeping onto his lips, as if he relished the chaos unfolding. "Stop!" Daniel yelled. "What do you mean my father was involved?" The urgency clawed at him, pulling every fiber of his being into desperation. "They knew!" The woman gasped, eyes wide. "They knew about his other life, about you, but they'll come for you too. You have to get out of here." Isabella trembled beside Daniel, terror written all over her face. "Who are they? What do you know about my father?" The woman's gaze darted, her voice trembling. "An organization. Your father was part of something powerful. And when he died, they wanted to erase anyone who knew." A million thoughts crashed through Daniel's mind. Erased? What does that even mean? Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from outside. The windows rattled, and everyone jumped, hearts pounding. The man at the door seemed unfazed, an amused glint in his eyes. Daniel threw a frantic, "Look at Jacob and Lily. We need to get out of here, now!" There was no time to dwell on these revelations. As he stood to help the woman up, a chill ran through him. Something dreadful was lurking just beyond the door. Suddenly, a group of figures appeared outside the church, shadows merging into shapes. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. They were dressed in black, faces obscured. A menacing aura surrounded them. "Daniel!" Isabella shouted, her voice a piercing shriek. "Run!" Before she could finish, the door flew open and chaos erupted. The black-clad figures surged in like a tidal wave, sweeping through the stunned congregation, panic erupting everywhere. "Get back!" Daniel shouted, his pulse racing. This was the danger the woman had warned about, the danger his family never expected. In the midst of the chaos, the man at the door stepped back into shadow, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. He whispered something just out of reach. Now the real game begins. Daniel felt a cold weight settle in his gut. This was not just about family secrets anymore. This was about survival. What had his father been wrapped in? Who were these people pursuing them? And as he grabbed Isabella's hand, dragging her away from the chaos, he knew that the answers would come with a price that could change everything he thought he knew. Daniel felt his heart race, the chaos around him turning into a blur. He gripped Isabella's hand tighter, glancing back as the dark figures surged forward. The woman on the floor, a stranger, was still gasping for breath, her wide eyes full of fear. Every instinct screamed at him, "Get out, now!" "Isabella!" he shouted. yanking her towards the back of the church. "This way! We have to find a way out." But just as they turned, another voice broke through the noise. "Daniel!" It was Jacob, his voice rising above the chaos, frantically waving them back. "Stay together! We're better as a group!" Without thinking, Daniel ordered, "No, we're easier to catch if we're together. We need to split up." In that moment, a crash shook the very foundation of the building. The black-clad figures had breached the pulpit, and glass from a shattered window rained down like dangerous confetti. Amidst the panic, Daniel felt a heavy force push him back, and he stumbled. Then the woman on the floor suddenly grasped his arm. "No, you can't leave! They're coming for you!" Her voice was urgent, almost frantic. "Who?" Daniel's patience frayed. "Tell me who!" But their conversation shattered with a new intrusion. From the chaos emerged the man lurking by the door. And now he stood before them, his smirk replaced with something far more sinister. "You really think you can escape this? You've already crossed a line you can't come back from." Just then, something shifted in him, a spark of recognition. He looked at the man's eyes closely, where a glint of something familiar sparked. It hit him like a punch to the gut. "Wait! Who are you?" Daniel demanded, standing his ground. "The question is not who I am," the man sneered, leaning close, "but who you really are." "Get away from him!" Jacob shouted, stepping forward, protective. But something about the man's piercing gaze pinned them all in place. And then the unexpected struck, as if the world decided to tilt again. The man took a step back and ripped his mask off, revealing a face that sent waves of shock crashing through Daniel. It was unmistakable. His father, or a man who looked just like him, a perfect mirror. "Trapped in a nightmare. Dad," Daniel's voice faltered, confusion clouding his mind. It twisted painfully. Was this even real? The man looked alive with a brutal kind of intensity. "No," Jacob whispered, his eyes wild. "That's impossible." "Is it?" The man's eyes sparkled not with familiarity, but menace. "You have no idea what you're mixed up in. I faked my death to protect you, all of you." "Protect us?" Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. "You created this chaos. You put us in danger." But the man merely shrugged, as if the pain already inflicted was of no consequence. "I did it for a reason. To shield you from enemies who would have had their way with the truth." The woman on the floor began to rise, blood still seeping from her side. She locked eyes with Daniel, a fierce resolve in her gaze. "You can't trust him. Not now, not ever." The congregation behind them swirled in fear, faces frozen in a tableau of shock that painted the walls of the church with uncertainty. Daniel felt like he was drowning in a sea of betrayal. First Isabella, now this twisted image of his father. "What does that even mean?" Daniel cried, desperate. "What enemies? What truth? Is this some sick game?" But before he could anticipate an answer, a loud explosion roared outside. The doors blew off their hinges, and suddenly the church was filled with blinding light, shadows darting in every direction. Dread crept into Daniel's heart. Was this the end? Out of the light stepped a figure, tall and imposing, wrapping the room in a wave of chilling authority. "You've played your hand, Daniel. Now, let's see how it all unfolds." And in that moment, surrounded by chaos, Daniel realized they were far from safe. The truth of what bound them together was about to reveal itself in ways they could never foresee. In the middle of the storm, everything he believed was about to crumble again. The weight of betrayal hung heavy in the air, each heartbeat echoing with one haunting thought. What was the real secret his father had hidden? And how deep did the darkness run? The echoes of the chaos reverberated through Daniel as he stared at the man. Was it really his father? The shock nearly paralyzed him. Confusion clouded every thought, every hope. The congregation around them faded into a blur, their gasps and murmurs a distant hum. "Dad!" The word felt foreign on his tongue. It held too much weight, too much history. You faked your death?" The questions spilled out, each one more desperate than the last. "Yes, Daniel," the man replied, his tone icy. "To protect you from what comes next." "Protect us?" Daniel roared, anger bubbling up like poison. "Look around! This is chaos! You've put everyone in danger." The men in black moved closer, the threat palpable. They eyed the woman on the floor, then swept their gaze across the room, calculating, ready to pounce. "Don't let them get away with this!" she cried out, struggling to stand. "You must fight them! They're here for you, Daniel!" Yet Daniel's world spiraled as the man continued. "You don't understand, Daniel. Faking my death was a sacrifice to keep you safe. I had to bury my past. And now, my enemies are here." Before Daniel could process all this, a piercing scream sliced through the air. "No!" Isabella shrieked, her fingers gripping Daniel's arm like a lifeline. He turned just in time to see a dark figure emerge from the shadows behind the altar. A glinting blade flashed in the... "Get down!" Jacob shouted, propelling himself towards Daniel and Isabella, but it was too late. Time slowed as the figure lunged forward, the blade arcing through the air like a serpent striking. In a chaotic flurry, the woman on the floor leapt, instinct driving her to protect them. But the movement was too swift. The blade found its mark. A sharp gasp escaped her lips, blood splattering like crimson paint on the snowy white altar cloth. "No," Daniel cried. Horror surging through him as the woman collapsed to the ground, life flickering from her eyes. The shock rippled through the church, silence falling like a heavy blanket. Every breath felt stuttered, caught in their throats. The figure, now stepping back into the shadows, laughed coldly. "You'll learn soon enough what your family has hidden." "No! You did this!" Daniel shouted, rage replacing fear. But something dark twisted within him. The weight of the truth was settling in, and it was heavier than he could bear. And then Isabella, his sister, stepped forward, defiance lighting her eyes. "You're wrong! We're stronger together! We can fight this!" Everything shifted in an instant. The man's smirk faltered. "Strength?" he sneered. "Your family is a house of cards. It won't take much to bring it down." At that moment, Daniel noticed something strange within the chaos. Jacob was looking at the man in a way that made his heart stumble. There was recognition, something almost like understanding. "Jacob?" Daniel's voice cracked. "What's going on?" Before Jacob could respond, a new figure stepped into the fray, shoving aside the others. The door slammed behind them. "I can spill everything if you want the truth." The room went dead silent. Daniel's breath hitched in his throat. He couldn't believe his eyes. "Lily?" It was the woman from earlier, but something about her felt different, darker, more determined. "This isn't over!" she growled, stepping towards the group with unsettling conviction. You think this is about family? No, it's about power. And I know where it is. Power? Daniel felt reality crumbling again. What do you mean? Lily's gaze darkened, and a smirk curled her lips. This isn't just about your father's mistakes. This is about the very legacy he left behind. And you, Daniel, you're the key. What? Confusion flooded through him. I don't understand. Then you better listen closely, she shot back. And in that moment, Daniel knew everything had just changed again. The stakes were higher than ever, binding him to a truth he couldn't escape. As the tension thickened, he realized with a sinking heart that their fight was only beginning. And the game was about to shift in ways none of them could fathom. What were they really up against? What had his father left behind? And why was he at the center of it all? In that charged silence, Daniel felt the air shift. It was as if the walls of the church were holding their breath, waiting for the next move. He looked between Lily and the man he claimed to be his father. Confusion gnawed at him, an insistent hunger for clarity. He needed answers. What did Lily mean by legacy? What did any of this mean? But before he could speak, the ground trembled underneath them. A loud crash echoed in the distance, shaking dust from the rafters above. The congregation gasped, eyes darting toward the sound, as panic rippled through the crowd like an electric current. "Stay where you are!" Jacob shouted, instinctively drawing Daniel and Isabella back, shielding them with his body. But that's when it happened. A blinding flash of light erupted outside, illuminating the entire church. It was so bright, Daniel had to shield his eyes. Windows shimmered like shattered glass, and screams erupted, a wave of fear smashing over them. Then the light receded, revealing a figure standing in the doorway. Clad in silver armor, glinting like a knight from a storybook, the figure marched forward. Everyone froze, breaths caught in their throats. Who was this? A savior or a threat? As the figure stepped closer, Daniel's heart raced. The helmet lifted, revealing a face he hadn't seen in years. His mother's twin sister, Aunt Vivian. "I'm here to help," she cried, urgency coating her voice. "What, Vivian?" Daniel stammered, confusion boiling. "You left. Why are you here now?" "Because we're running out of time," she yelled, pulsing with energy. "The shadows behind your father's past are closing in. They want you, and they won't stop until they get what they came for." The man claiming to be his father scowled, but something flickered behind his eyes. Fear? Regret? "No!" he shouted. "You shouldn't be here. You'll expose us both." Unfazed, Vivienne stepped forward, authoritative. "It's too late. You've already messed up. Daniel is caught in this web now." She turned to Daniel, her expression intense. "You must trust me. There's a much bigger truth." The tension thickened like fog. The man's cold smile faded into a grimace, and for the first time, he looked vulnerable. "You think you know what's best for them, don't you?" "What are you talking about?" Daniel's voice wavered, his stomach twisting. But then, another crash. The doors burst open dramatically once more, a sweeping gust of wind preceding yet another figure charging in. This time it was a young man, disheveled and wild-eyed, panting heavily but with an undeniable spark of desperation. "Daniel!" he shouted, locking eyes with him. "Listen, this is urgent. I'm your cousin, Marcus. I know everything." "Cousin?" Daniel echoed, reeling. It felt like every revelation was spinning him in circles. Who was this kid? What did he know? The family? It's not what you think, Marcus gasped. Your father was involved in something so much darker than anyone realized. An aunt? Vivian? She kept it hidden. She was meant to protect you by keeping you away. Betrayal crashed against Daniel. You kept this from me? Then, realizing the implication, a chilling thought struck. Am I part of whatever dark legacy this is? In that moment, the collective fear around them erupted into chaos. The man in silver armor who was supposed to help now seemed to wrestle with monumental decisions, glancing nervously between those gathered. Protect them! Someone shouted from the back, and suddenly the crowd surged, bystanders pushing forward, brimming with questions and disbelief. Then the unimaginable happened. As a new wave of chaos swept in, Daniel turned back to his father, who is now trembling, the armor of his past slipping, revealing desperation underneath. "Daniel, listen," he pleaded. "You don't know the price of the truth." And in that moment, Daniel understood. Everything they had fought for was built on lies. Everything he knew was about to unravel at the seams, and the darkness, lurking in his family history, was ready to pounce. Caught between the swirling currents of truth and deception, Daniel felt his whole world shift again. How could he trust his family now? Were any of them truly on his side? As whispers of the past echoed around him, Daniel took a deep breath, ready to plunge deeper into the chaos. The real battle was just beginning, and somehow, in this storm of revelations, he needed to find his own path. Who could he trust when nothing was as it seemed? Daniel felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. Was this really his father standing before him? The room buzzed with tension. People were shouting, confusion reigned, and all he wanted was answers. But before he could ask, the ground shook again. A sound like thunder rumbled from outside. "What now?" he gasped, eyes darting toward the door. Fear clawed at him as he felt that familiar knot tightening in his stomach. And then, just like that, the doors shattered open. Everyone froze. A figure stumbled into the church, clothes tattered, eyes wild with terror. It was a young woman, blood streaking down her arm. "You have to help!" she yelled, panting. "They're after me!" "Who is they?" Daniel shouted, heart pounding. His thoughts raced. Was this another surprise from the twisted web of his family? The young woman collapsed. Panic swept through the crowd, eyes darting toward the man at the door, the one claiming to be his father. "You can't let her expose what you did," he snapped, voice rising. Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. "What did you do?" he pressed, desperation creeping into his voice. The young woman lifted her head, meeting Daniel's gaze. "They want the truth. Your father. I know about the organization. They're coming." Her words caught everyone off guard. The congregation whispered and gasped, eyes filled with shock. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the air thickened with dread. The man, his father, stepped forward, panic flashing across his features, now completely stripped of the confidence he had moments ago. "What do you know?" he barked at the young woman, stepping closer. "I overheard them," she gasped. "They said there was a traitor among you. Someone would betray you. They'll stop at nothing." Before anyone could process this, another crash echoed outside, a car screeching to a halt. A group of masked individuals with weapons poured into the church, eyes darting with purpose. Daniel's heart dropped into his stomach. This was it. All of their lives hung in the balance in a matter of seconds. "Run!" Jacob shouted. instinct kicking in. The congregation erupted into chaos. People scrambling, shouting, and frantically searching for a way out. "Daniel!" a voice cried out. He turned, finding Isabella clutching his arm, terror plastered on her face. "What do we do?" "I don't know," he replied, feeling completely lost. The walls seemed to close in, and all safety vanished like smoke. But in the confusion, an unexpected voice rang out, clear and strong. It was Aunt Vivian. "Gather everyone!" she yelled, pulling them together. "We need to protect the truth." "Protect the truth?" The audacity of her words struck Daniel like lightning. "What truth? What are you hiding?" Her gaze met his, and for a moment he saw something he'd never seen before. A flicker of fear that made him question everything. "Daniel, you need to trust me." Then a startling silence fell when one of the masked intruders pointed at him. "You!" he shouted. "You're the key to it all. You don't know who you really are." Every spine in the room straightened. Daniel's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through him. "What do you mean?" he demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. The masked figure stepped closer, piercing eyes fixed on him, filled with a wild intensity. "You are the last descendant of a legacy so powerful it can bring nations to their knees. Your father's choices weren't for nothing. They entwine us all." "No!" Daniel shouted, shaking his head in disbelief. "I can't be a part of this." But his denial fell flat. The masked intruder leaned in, their breath chilling against Daniel's skin. "You think your father protected you from the world? No. He hid the truth, the darkness that runs through your veins." Just then, a loud bang echoed through the church. The ceiling above them cracked, dust raining down. People screamed. Chaos overtook the space once more, and Daniel, rattled to the core, faced the realization that nothing was as it seemed. "What more are you hiding?" he yelled at Vivienne, his heart pounding as everything he believed twisted like smoke around him. Suddenly, confusion met clarity. "What is my real legacy?" Vivienne's eyes flickered with something. Fear? Regret? Before she could answer, a blinding light surged through the church again, drowning out all noise and engulfing Daniel in a wave of uncertainty, leaving him desperate for the truth. What was the dark legacy that tied their fates together? As the dust settled, the weight of the unknown pressed down more heavily than ever. The air was electric, thick with tension, as Daniel stared at the masked intruder. His heart thudded violently in his chest, each beat a suffocating reminder that everything he thought he knew was crumbling before his very eyes. "What do you mean I'm the key?" he demanded, desperation clawing at his tone. The figure stepped closer, a sinister smile playing on their lips. "Your legacy, Daniel. It holds powers unimaginable, your father's decisions, and secrets are intertwined with darkness, and a destiny that has long been waiting for you." "Enough!" Vivian barked, her fierce demeanor igniting a spark of courage in Daniel. "You won't take him!" But even as the words hung in the air, another crash erupted outside, and the masked figure surged forward. Panic spread like wildfire, remnants of trust vanishing. Daniel felt Isabella's fingers trembling against his arm, grounding him as screams echoed in anguish. "Run!" Jacob shouted, herding everyone toward the back exit. "Now!" But Daniel remained frozen, caught between the clamor and his raging thoughts. "No! We fight!" He couldn't let this be the end. The truth must come to light. Just then, the woman who had warned. Then before, fought her way back to her feet, blood still dripping from her wound. "If they get you, it's all over. We must unite, fight for what's right." With a surge of energy, Daniel rallied his fragmented family. "Everyone, we can't let fear rule us. This is about more than our past. It's about our future." As the black figures advanced, Daniel's heart raced with resolve. "We're not just victims, we're family." His voice sliced through the chaos, momentarily stilling the commotion. He could see it in everyone's eyes, fear giving way within the collective courage of the family. "You cannot stop what's set in motion," one of them hissed. But doubt crept into their voice, a flicker of hesitation. Suddenly, a loud explosion sounded from outside, the double doors of the church blown open by an unseen force. Light streamed in, illuminating the chaos as their pursuers faltered like shadows against the brilliance. "Now!" Daniel shouted, urging his family forward. They surged together, a wall of determination. Each step felt monumental, courage outweighing fear, torching the lies that had held them captive for so long. In that pivotal moment, Daniel locked eyes with the figure who claimed to be his father, finding no comfort, only a hollow echo of betrayal. "You may have lied about the truth, but you'll never lie about the choices I make now." With newfound strength, they pushed forward, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. The truth would not crush them. It would unite them. Together, they charged into the light, roaring their defiance and drawing strength from one another. As they stumbled out into the fresh air, there was a feeling of release, an unshackling from the burdens of their past. Daniel felt a surge of hope swell within him. They were alive, they had a future, and the powerful legacy they were meant to uphold could be built anew. But their fight was far from over. They were headed into a world filled with danger and deception. Yet the bond forged in fire would carry them through. And with that, he realized the truth may hurt, but it would always lead to freedom. You have to subscribe right now. Don't miss any of our exclusive stories or you'll regret it. Smash that like button right now to show your support and feed the algorithm. We need your engagement to keep this going. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. I want to hear from every single one of you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Your support is what makes this community amazing.